Habits, conscious and subconscious programs often get in the way of our progress, but there are actually 5 habits that can move us closer to the center of calmness. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Center of Calmness. We are super blessed tonight to have Maureen and Alexis with us. Actually, I'm showing the banner right now that I wish to show at the end. So there's their information. Maureen and Alexis, welcome and glad to have you here tonight.
Thank you for having us. We're really excited to be here with you.
Awesome. So you're both calling from different locations, Atlanta as well as Toronto, right? How are things in your respective cities?
I mean, it's hot Atlanta as usual. And things are in the area that I'm in, it seems quite normal with considering what's going on in the pandemic. But other than that, kids are going virtually and everything else is great.
Excellent. Alexis, how is it with you?
Yeah, fantastic. We're having some nice weather for the last couple weeks of summer. My kids start school a little bit later, so we're enjoying the last 2 weeks before we get back to it. But yeah, so far so good.
So it sounds like it's a lot more relaxed in Toronto than is in Atlanta, if I'm picking up the vibe right. Glad you both are doing well. And just to start off, you're both part of the same coaching organization, correct?
That's right. We actually met when we were both certified with Brendan Bouchard in Arizona. That's where we met up for the first time.
Excellent. And if I could ask, could you maybe just give a quick introduction of the coaching group you're part of and what your primary mission or objective is with your practices?
Absolutely. So we're a goal set coach. We're certified high performance coaches, and we work more predominantly with women who, professional women who are kind of trying to balance the work-life kind of balance, who are feeling burnt out, overwhelmed, feeling like there's a lot on their plates and being kind of stretched in both ways. And we work with them to try and find that balance and find that center and be able to, start to build or continue to build the life that they desire for themselves and their families.
That sounds neat. It's an impressive focus and certainly in line with our objective here at the Center of Calmness to bring folks away from overwhelm and stress and all of the negative consequences and all of the ways that that holds us back. Maureen, did you have anything to add with regard to your specific practice as to the types of clients you've been working with lately?
Yeah, so quite a bit of our clients come to us, struggling with the 3 major things. They're either perfectionists, overachievers, or people pleasers. Which that has them really burnt out and not really self-expressed per se, and gets them to a point where they are looking to either quit their job, start all over, go hide, run away. If that's like how they're feeling, then that's what we help them achieve, to like they can still have the successful career that they've already built for themselves, and now start creating a balanced lifestyle around that. Or vice versa, however they want to do it. They can find within themselves what it is that they want to create without losing. Actually, let me say, there are 2 of the clients that I've worked with actually increased in their pay and got promoted just by changing the way they were coming across at work and getting more hours back with their family. And I've got one who doubled her revenue in her private practice. Actually, she's in Canada. And so it's when you start calming down, like you said, like calming down and balancing that lifestyle, then things just start to mold around you. I don't know how else to say it, but you end up getting the life that you always wanted.
So if I can ask, and maybe we'll shift to Alexis here for a second. As you work with your clients and they come to you with their issues of overwhelm and perhaps their general general feelings of overwhelm or perhaps are very specific issues, what is the process that you take them through once you've identified where they're coming from?
Absolutely. So we almost always start with clarity and the sort of habits that come through getting really clear on who you are as an individual, how you want to show up in the world, and getting clear on kind of your purpose or the lifestyle that you want to create. We find that a lot of our clients, they're sort of in reactionary mode, and whatever's sort of thrown their way, they start to, they say yes here, take on this project. And sometimes that's not even what they really want, right? And so we start with getting them really focused and really centered and figuring out kind of who they are, how they want to show up, and kind of what's the sort of the path forward, right? When we remove all the noise, remove all of kind of the clutter and everything else that comes into our days every single day, distracting us from our true purpose or our truth, who we want to be. So we always start there. And I find that really helpful because then we can start to sort of build around sort of that center.
I gotcha. And how do the clients react when you take them through each stage? Of course, I think we're going to go through 5 of these, right? So as they get through the clarity stage, are there specific exercises or meditations or worksheets or scenarios? What's the kind of the general process? How do you take them through the first clarity stage and get them to demonstrate that they have achieved the clarity that you're trying to coach them toward?
So the first step that we get them through, DK, is that we do a self-assessment first off in the program. Once they do a self-assessment and rate themselves, then we ask them, why did you rate yourself? Whatever it is, if it's a 6 out of 10. And that usually, those are questions we never really ask ourselves and, measure ourselves. Because if we're measuring ourselves that low, then there's really something that we don't know, right? But then we have clients who do, they're very clear on their purpose and what it is that they want, but they're running themselves down. So then we go to the next step. But to go through the clarity, then we talk about, the 3 words. Like we say, start each day or meeting or, interaction with your children with 3 words. Who is it that you want to be? How is it that you want to come up? So my go-to words are unstoppable, love, vibrant, and I also put in connected. So the love and connected kind of goes together. So I make sure that wherever I'm at, I'm bringing that type of energy with me. And sometimes it's being very decisive, accomplished. You can pick the words that actually shift you to how you want to be whatever situation you're going in. That's the first step.
Right. Okay. So yeah, that 3-word focus, I really appreciate that, along with the ability to rate and get a sense of what's clear and what's not clear from a number of different angles. That's awesome. So if I could shift back to Alexis for a second, what is the second step of the process?
Yeah, the next one we focus on is our energy. And with our energy, it's really about being more intentional and responsible, if you will, with the energy that you're bringing into the world in general, but into each interaction that you have, or even with yourself, because that mind-body connection is so important. And so many times we just, we may answer a question if someone says, "Hey, how are you?" And a lot of times I hear that go-to word, "Oh, busy, crazy," and without even thinking. But then our words are very powerful. The words that we use then reinforce how we feel inside. So when we are talking about energy, it's really about generating and cultivating the energy that you want, and understanding that yes, emotions come up, and sometimes that they feel like they're automatic, and they kind of, especially the negative emotions, the anger, frustration, and absolutely, sometimes they can come on very, very quickly, but beyond a few minutes, we're now choosing to continue that emotion. And that's sometimes a really kind of hard thing for people to understand, or to kind of recognize in themselves. But we really focus on how can you control and generate the energy that you want more often, right? And really be responsible for it. So energy is the second one. And we really do talk about both physical, mental, and emotional energy. It's called like the capital E energy, because one affects the other. And so there is a focus on, getting enough sleep, getting enough water, exercise, nutrition. We're not nutritionists by any means or anything like that, but we just recognize the importance of that physical, taking care of yourself physically. And then again, rating ourselves. And Maureen brought up such a great point, is the self-assessments. And I think most people, this is what's really lacking, is looking and saying, hang on, how do I feel in this area of life? How do I feel in this area of life? Sometimes we take things as such a whole and we don't realize, where is the challenging parts coming in? Where are the parts that we don't really like? How is that affecting everything? It's not just life. It could just be work. It could just be our health or our energy. So around energy is really about generating it and understanding that you do have the control, and you do have the power to generate it, any kind of energy you like.
So as you take clients through that second energy stage, is it more a matter of mapping where their energy issues are, or do you have some kind of exercise or regimen to take them through, such that after they finish that regimen, that they can demonstrate an increase in energy once the stage is complete?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people, a little part of it is recognizing, where is your energy dipping throughout the day. A lot of people say, oh, that when 2 or 3 p.m. hits, like my energy goes down. And some people think that's just the way it's supposed to be. So we talk a lot about like preempting those energy dips. So maybe that means you make your, a quick brisk afternoon walk to get that energy up. Maybe for some people that's a quick 5 to 20 minute meditation or a little nap, right? It is really personal. But one exercise that I love, I share it all the time, we teach, is mastering transitions. And this is just a really simple exercise where you take a few minutes before what we call, a transition between activities. So even at work, let's say you're doing emails, and then you've got a meeting in 20 minutes. So you finish up the emails. That's a transition between, email time and then now social time or being in a meeting. And taking, 5 or 10 minutes, even you can do it in 2 or 3 minutes, taking a few deep breaths, getting yourself centered. And then once you kind of are feeling in that calm, centered state, you think about the energy that you want to bring into the next activity. So if you're going into a meeting, seeing your colleagues, kind of what energy do you want to bring in? Like a lot of life? Do you want to bring in some fun? Do you want to bring in some, determination or whatever it is? And you kind of do like a little bit of a visualization of how you want to show up in the next activity. And by doing this for just a few minutes, you can, like I said, recenter, and that's where we can generate that energy that we want. And this, if you've ever heard me speak anywhere, this is one I will always share, because for me, this was the most powerful one when I was coming home from work. Before I come in to see my kids, my husband, regardless of what the day kind of threw at me, good, bad, sometimes we're just overwhelmed from the whole day. I would do this before I'd even get out of my car in the driveway. Took about 5 minutes. And I would just think about, what kind of mom do I want to go in and be? What kind of wife do I want to be when I go in and greet everyone? Because it's easy to take the energy from one activity and bring it into the next. And when it's high energy and it's good energy, great. But what happens when it's frustration, right? What happens when it's anger or sadness? Now you're bringing all of that in. And that's a choice that we make. So by taking that step back and mastering the transition, that's my absolute favorite technique, if you will, to share with people in how to generate their energy.
That is totally awesome. There's 2 techniques right there I can actually apply personally. I really appreciate that, Alexis.
Yes.
So, Maureen, if I could ask you, once you've taken your client through the clarity and energy stages, what is the next step of the process?
Yeah, so the next one is courage, and this is when our ladies start to like pull back a little bit, like, oh, I don't know about courage. So we start talking about, those fears, so our limiting beliefs that we've talked about, imposter syndrome. So we start going into deeper about what it is that you want for yourself and what is stopping you. And how we kind of coach them through that is, what is that conversation that you want to have? Or what is it that you want to do? And then think about what would your higher self or tell you that you need to do? Just go for it. What would your future self from 5 years thank you for doing? So you could even look at it that way. Another thing is, like, if there's someone that you look up to, or a mentor or coach. And so a lot of them say, a lot of our clients are like, Maureen, I hear your voice telling me to just do it. So if you have a coach or a mentor, then, think about, oh, well, what would they tell me what to do? They'll tell me to go do it. So it's really pulling in, giving you techniques, and we go into further in depth, but it's really giving you techniques that you can use to get you across that line that you want to get to when we feel stopped.
That's really cool. I appreciate that you have multiple flavors, if you will, of that. I'm going to use the word avatar, right? Whether it's higher self, whether it's a mentor, but somebody that's able to speak into your life. That's not you. That's somebody who's already been there, done that before, and can advise you. Okay, this is what you must do next to achieve the goal that's personally yours. That is really yours to achieve if you only have the courage to do so. So that's totally awesome. And Alexis, what is step 4 after the courage stage is passed?
The 4th habit is productivity. And this is a favorite for me and Maureen. We love anything to do with productivity. And it's really about narrowing your focus, creating boundaries. And the nice thing about sort of productivity, and the next one that we'll talk about, really the first 3 kind of help build into the ladder. So when you're really clear on what it is that you want, it makes it much easier to create those boundaries and say anything that's not in alignment with where I'm going, where I want to go, where I'm headed. That's it. Like, that's a hard no, right? That's an easy no. If it is in alignment and there's, what we call competing interests, things that are kind of equally important, now comes sort of our productivity techniques and making specific time in your agenda. And we really, talk about your calendar. And if it's not on your calendar, it's not getting done. So we talk a lot about block time. And this is where a lot of people love to-do lists. This is where we take those things and find a home for them in your agenda for the week, for the day. And you block out the time. So you may have an hour to do your emails from 9 till 10. You don't do them at 11:30 or 2. You have the time set because every other block is filled with something. And this allows us to sort of stay on course and not get overwhelmed. We know what the day looks like. We spend a few minutes first thing in the morning going over our day, making sure everything that's in there deserves to be in there, is still important, is still in alignment with what we're trying to create. And we know, right, there's no surprises in what's sort of going to happen. So that way, when surprises do happen, right, things that come onto our plate that maybe we're not expecting, we can look through our day and find maybe times where we've blocked a little bit of buffer time, or again, we just say, unfortunately, I'm actually all booked up for the day, and you can find another spot. So this can kind of not just allow you to get more done with less stress, it also helps to eliminate or at least reduce that overwhelm when you're taking on too much. You can look at your calendar and easily say, my week is full.
That's great. Yeah, so we've got a good map with a combination of activity alignment to the activities that actually match the goals that you're trying to achieve, as well as the blocking aspect. And I've heard, of course, there's some famous examples of blocking, like, for example, Elon Musk, who I understand actually uses a very short time block and is able to do tremendous amounts of activity in a given day just by running on, I think it's a 15-minute block. It's a super small one that he's able to leverage. So that's an exciting and a very great way to actually a very old way to organize, and still as relevant today as it was 20, 50 years ago. So I appreciate you sharing that, Alexis. Maureen, what is habit number 5 then, once we've crossed productivity?
So this is another tough one. I'm getting all the tough ones today, Alexis. So this one is the 5th habit is influence. And the reason why this is the last one is, so you need to make sure that you're clear, you've got the right energy, that you've got productivity in place, and you're coming in courageously. And then the influence is, how do you show up so that you can influence others? So you want to make sure that your energy is good, you're clear what it is that you want to create in that conversation or in that meeting, or in your family, and then and having some kind of balance there when you start to go there, right? And then once you're there, it's how do you have that communication with them? And it's really meeting them in the middle. So, a lot of people are like, I just can't convince anyone to do that. It's really not about convincing. It's really about meeting in the middle of what it is that they're looking for and what it is that you're looking for, and then trying to create that. So it's a really in-depth one. We actually cover that twice in our program, but it's an interesting one because there's always one person that we're avoiding or not wanting to talk to, or we just can't get them. I think the hardest one that we've had, Alexis, is how do we get our teens to listen to us and do what we tell them to do? And
Right.
I was like, well, that's a good one. I don't know, because I got teens and they don't listen to me either.
Right.
But we can come up with things like, what is it that they really, it's getting related to what it is that they want for themselves, right? And I don't want to call it manipulation really, but it's almost like you have to meet them at where they are and get their buy-in before you can even move any further. So we go into in depth of how do you navigate through that, and it takes trial and error in the beginning, right? If you want to, just like sales, it takes some trial and error there. But yeah, it's a great topic to go over.
And just to build on that a little bit, like you said, you cover it twice, so I guess we'll cover it twice as well. When you were trying to discover that counterparty's interest, right? Because you're talking about meeting in the middle. Does your process offer some specific techniques of how to discover what that counterparty, whether it's a spouse or whether it's a teammate or a customer, how do you find out where they wish to be so that you can meet them in the middle?
So it's really just starting a conversation and asking them, what are they up to? Even asking like, what are your plans, or what were you excited about, or, last week or coming up? And, you could actually read their energy, like what they're excited about. Well, it looks like you're really excited about that. Or it looks like you're really stressed out about that. Can you tell me a little bit more? So it's really like getting in tune to where they are, just by asking questions. So in this one course that I took, it's really dancing in that conversation and make sure that you're not trying to force them to do anything. You're not asking them to defend yourself. You're being very authentic, right? Once you become authentic and you validate what they're up to, acknowledge them for that, then you go to get to the next level. Like, DK, I acknowledge you. You're out there in this world, making sure that people who are struggling and hustling, that they can find the calm within all that storm. And so I acknowledge you, that you really care for people, that they're living their best life and not having to deal with anxiety and overwhelm every day. And I really acknowledge you for that. That's just pretty amazing. Not everybody does that. It's a tremendous value that you add to the world. That's kind of like how you acknowledge someone. And then, yeah, now I can say, so will you sign up for my program?
I can feel the energy from that. That's powerful, right? Because you've reached out to where I am, and then there's a connection that's formed, right, energetically between us when you're talking about that. Yeah, certainly much more. Which program is it? Where can I sign up for it?
Exactly. Awesome. So it's really just acknowledge. People want to be validated, DK. Like, people want to be heard. Why do they speak over you? Why are they raising their voice? Because they don't feel like they're being heard. So as soon as you start repeating like the words that they use, or acknowledge them for who you see them being, then that's when that connection starts to happen, and then you can have a flourishing conversation from there.
That is awesome. I am going to meditate on that and use that next Wednesday in a meeting. That's earth-shattering from my point of view. I have a difficult meeting coming up that I'm going to actually think through that process and use it. I'll let you know how it works out.
Let us know, how it works out.
So I wonder if we could finish our conversation here tonight with Alexis, perhaps just tying all 5 of these habits together. And I wonder if you might be able to share, Alexis, an example, not a specific example, but maybe something general from a client experience or a group experience where you took them through all 5 of the habits. And since we're focused on calmness tonight, I wonder if maybe you could comment on how the group or how the individual felt once they were successful in completing all 5 or establishing all 5 of these habits through your process.
Absolutely. So, all of these habits that we're talking about, simply acknowledging them and taking the time to kind of go through them really does shift people almost instantly. After our calls, we've heard it a couple of times. We often get feedback from our clients, and we hear it all the time. Like, Wednesdays was our calls, and like Wednesday just is always a great day because they're just getting more in tune with themselves and what's important. And one person, one of our clients that comes to mind, when she came to us, she was really overwhelmed in a job that she was not enjoying, that was feeling really stressed with family life. Her relationships were suffering. Her and her husband weren't seeing eye to eye just because of all the stress. And, I want to say 8 weeks possibly through our program, we have seen an incredible shift in just her energy, whereas before you could feel the heaviness on the calls with her. And she's completely sort of shifted that energy. She had the courage to actually go in and quit her job and begin a new venture that she's always wanted to. And, you often hear these stories, and I've got a couple different stories like that with clients where for years they wanted to open their own business or do this, make a complete shift, but they just didn't, right? Because they were kind of comfortable in the uncomfortable. They didn't love their job, but it was secure. So, all of those things kind of come into play for them. But once they really get in tune and they get clear on the lifestyle that they want to be, the legacy that they want to leave behind, when they recognize that they are responsible for their own energy and that they can actually create it on demand, all of those things, courage, influence, when you tie them all together, it really has the power to completely transform somebody's life. And in turn, a family, a colleague, a friend, it's like that ripple effect out there. So that was just the one client that came to mind, and she's made all of these changes in a very short amount of time. And we're so excited to continue the relationship with her and see where she goes and cheer her on. But yeah, like, again, it's going back to intention and the intention that you have. And a lot of people, I feel, like I said earlier, they sort of live in that reactionary state, and they're just reacting to everything that's happening around them. And once you sort of take hold and you recognize how much control you actually have over the life that you want to create, it's truly transformational.
That is a perfect way to finish this off with that concept, and not just the concept, but the experience of intention and all the power that we can bring into any situation or any process that we find ourselves in the middle of. And that is such an amazing testimony from your client. I appreciate you sharing that, Alexis. So just to finish off here, I wanted to share your contact information for anyone in the audience who might wish to get a hold of either of you. So the website is www.goalsetcoach.com. That's goalsetcoach.com, with an email address simply at info@goalsetcoach.com. So I just wanted to show that for everyone's use. And Maureen and Alexis, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show this evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. And for the Center of Calmness, I'm DK Warner.